Save the Rhino Trust, it was formed in 1982 as a Namibian NGO. It's a non-profit organisation, it's a welfare organisation. So we decided that the way the slaughter of these large animals was taking place needed addressing, and my wife then started the Save the Rhino Trust to bring attention to the plight of all these large mammals in this northwestern part of the country.
Maar 1980, 81 was moes die Suid-Afrikaanse army hier in hierdie area. En hulle het daai 303 gewere aan die plaaslike mense verkoop vir 30 Namibiese dollar.
We went down to perhaps 50 rhinos in an area of 50,000 square kilometers, where you probably had before up to 400-500.
The Kunene region of Namibia is a huge, hard and remote wilderness, home to a unique population of desert-adapted black rhino.
The main reason for SRT to be formed was because of the poaching in the northwest, which is at that time the Damara land and Kauko land. And nobody was responsible for taking action in it. And that's why late Blythe Lutit came up with the idea of forming Save the Rhino Trust to protect these rhinos.
The continued support and involvement of the local community is also of utmost importance.
Maar hy het ons nie geweet die belangrikheid van die renoster. Maar toe ons sien die renosters is besig om sy getale te daal, het die safety rhino ingekom. En daardie tyd het hulle al begin om die renoster te begin beskerm.
Conservationists and others, Blythe Lutit, established Save the Rhino Trust with a few thousand rand from the sale of her artwork, the use of her private Land Rover, and with the support and assistance of her husband Rudy, Peter Earp, Garth Owen Smith, and 2 trekkers.
If we were running out of funds, then Blythe would be spending a month in the field, and then all of us would be wondering what is she doing. But when she came back, then she would show us some paintings that she has made, and these paintings were sold, and that money that's used again to pump into the operations of the Save the Rhino Trust. And that's how she kept this organization going.
The approach was simple but effective. Rather than bring in outsiders who often are militarized to monitor and protect the rhinos, Blythe and her team began employing local people, many of whom were hunters, some even previously known poachers, to lead the protection efforts.
Na programa je ging au Blythe ngabandi ngabana ti projecta kuru sika aha isa stop mechi sinsenege wa kambegen khaukan ngarisi weti in from sahabaka ye.
SRT has always focused on data collection, which has helped us to understand the behavior and movements of these prehistoric animals. In 1986, SRT started to collect data using traditional foot tracking techniques to find rhinos during the first individual-based rhino census, which was conducted by Garth Owen Smith and Duncan Gilchrist. At this juncture, SRT took on the mantle of the only NGO rhino monitoring organization in Namibia, focusing on the collection of rhino monitoring data. By 1989, SRT had 3 teams of trackers and almost 10 community game guards who were actively patrolling in their areas.
I started in 1989 as a senior tracker for SRT, and community game guards trained us how to follow the rhinos.
Namibia gained its independence from South Africa in 1990, and under the new government, rhino dehorning and translocations were still part of the plan to save the last remaining free-roaming black rhino. After independence, SRT appointed more local men as trackers to monitor the rhino population in the northwest.
Blythe is actually the person that brought me into Save the Rhino Trust. I joined SRT on my birthday, the 2nd of July 1991. I was a supervisor looking after the teams that was building this elephant protection, the walls around the dams. Immediately, I could see She had that trust in me, and she was sort of pulling back in the beginning and let me do things with people, and she will always call me in, and then I was like her second in charge.
1992 saw Michael Hearn joining SRT as a volunteer from Save the Rhino International.
Mike henige ip ang anna didagre kaka sidage dida Mike hena dida anna karopagre kaka tuikuege kaka de nabaskre storm ochenet nababi klangi tuigren on openanga baba stop sigrema.
The year I started, 1993, I met Mike Hen. He was a good guy. He was the one who was supervising us, driving up and down from Korekas to give us rations and salaries. By that time, there was no police officers. We were just SRT alone. But the lucky thing, we were patrolling with a rifle. The rifle was carried by Manigi, who was a team leader by that time. We have came across lions, other dangerous animals, elephants. And there's times where we have been jump off the donkeys and run away.
By the early 90s, the first 5-year census of the Kunene rhino population took place.
In 93, 94, that we did a big census with the Minister of Environment and Tourism at that time, ourselves and some NGOs that was interested. We brought all the information together. And then we hired Dr. Rob Brett, and he developed this rhino database where you put all the necessary data in.
This form was designed by Mike Hearn. And over the years, we've changed a few things and made it easier for the trackers to fill in. And Dr. Brett used this form to develop the SRT database, which is the oldest black rhino database in the world. And the forms are filled in by the SRT trackers on the ground. They also use smart now, so we're slowly evolving over to technology. They know all the black rhino from notches, and they all have names.
As SRT started to standardize monitoring, this ushered in a new science-based approach to rhino conservation. Through this shift, SRT gained additional momentum and financial support improved. At this point, Mike Hearn had earned his MSc.
He finished his master's degree, and he did it so well that the British government actually decided to train 2 Namibians to the same level of Mike. In case something happened one day with him, somebody is left behind that can still continue with the work.
I first met Mike Hearn in 2002 when I was running student research programs with a US-based company called Round River Conservation Studies. And Mike had invited us to come up to Kunene and assist Save the Rhino with their 3rd 5-year rhino census.
Ik heb 2003 bij SRT gekomen en met Mike Hearn gewerkt met de studenten van Round River. En ik heb voor hulle geleerd over die bomen en planten.
Our students then became engaged in additional research projects, again led by Simpson Urdikab and Michael Sibilatani. And both of these studies then became the foundation for what would inform a lot of our work moving forward to expand and scale up both the community work that we were doing as well as the tourism.
Those days we were working through the farmers' unions, and they were present in these meetings, and it is with them that we have established the conservancies.
With the conservancy movement gaining respect and reputation, the ministry began to explore extending its rhino custodianship program, which had previously only been granted to private commercial farmers, to communal conservancies that are willing to assist with rhino protection.
The custodian program was initiated in '93, whereby we started off with freehold properties, making them custodians, and they looked after the state's black rhino. We rolled it out to conservancies.
Ons het gevra dat die rhinos weer moet terugkom.
From early on, SRT acknowledged the important role of tourism in conservation. To date, the organization has helped to unlock close to 20 million Namibian dollars for local communities through setting up and facilitating rhino tracking activities and partnerships between local communities and private sector.
One of our very first research projects that we engaged in with Mike Hearn was work at Desert Rhino Camp to understand not just what makes rhinos disturbed and how to reduce that, but also how to partner between an NGO, Save the Rhino Trust, and a business such as Wilderness Safaris, how to make that marriage work.
The lowest point in SRT's history was in 2005, when in January, Mike Hearn passed away in a tragic surfing accident. And later in June, Blythe Laudit, with the same courage and spirit as she had for saving rhinos, finally lost her battle to cancer.
I went to study for a year, and when I came back, she was very sick. I mean, I went when she was sick, but I didn't have an option. And then when I came back, she passed away, and there was me now standing in front of all those people and not really knowing what I want to do. And luckily her husband, Rudy Lutit, was there. He works for the government, but he had retired. So he actually came in and he said, come on, let's do it. Let's keep it together and get funds and let's go.
What really pulled SRT out of this difficult time was an appeal from the communities and an unrivaled opportunity to reintroduce black rhinos into communal land.
There was a clear request from the communities to receive rhino back, and to secure that, it was clear that tourism was going to be a major draw card to ensure that benefits from rhinos reach the broader community.
The reintroduction of the rhinos within the Conservancy was valued highly by the community members themselves. As a community-owned lodge, 85% of the people that are employed at the lodge are actually local people that comes from the farms within the Conservancy, and the reintroduction of the rhinos within the Conservancy created the rhino ranger job opportunities and more job opportunities as well.
Since the introduction, that population has grown.
En elke toerist wat kom, gee geld. En met die geld gaan ons terug na conservancies toe. En van die conservancies af word die geld weer versprei na die gemeenskap toe.
The success experienced in Kwadinghuas catalyzed a series of rhino reintroductions over the following few years, resulting in over 40 rhinos being released back onto communal conservancy lands. This made substantial contribution towards achieving Namibia's rhino conservation goals of sustained population growth and range expansion.
The proof is in the animals on the landscape today, and we're now looking into the future where they are starting to take rhinos from this area and move them eastwards back towards Etosha, the big national park, to expand the range, which is part of the national plan. So that's exciting to see that your work over a long period of time has not just achieved more rhinos, but it's actually achieving the national goals and the international goals for rhino conservation in the world.
While rhinos were flourishing in Namibia, expanding rangeland and in numbers, South Africa started to record a massive increase in poaching. It wasn't a matter of if poaching would reach Namibia, but a matter of when and would we be ready. SRT realized that there was not enough internal capacity nor financial resources to deal with this threat alone.
A few months later, the ministry called a meeting, the very first security meeting in the Kunene region with stakeholders. What came out of the meeting was an extremely strong message from the custodians, which worked for the conservancies themselves, standing up and saying that we want to take a lead in looking after our rhinos, and we want the NGOs to support us. And that really became the foundation in the very, very beginning of the Conservancy Rhino Ranger program.
With a united call from communal rhino custodians for support, SRT began designing a strategy which would seek to transfer its effective rhino monitoring techniques and tools to a new generation of Conservancy rhino rangers. In 2014, Simpson Urikop was promoted to CEO of SRT.
I was very confident with my work. I know what I was doing, and it was fine. But the biggest problem that came in was poaching actually started at that time.
En ons het in hierdie area rondgery. En na 10 kilometers het daar 'n karkas gelê. En dit het vir ons getref.
It was a very dark time for Save the Rhino Trust. The first poaching in Namibia actually initiated in the Kunene area in 2012, and it escalated, with 2014 being one of the worst years of poaching ever in that area.
That's why I called it the dark days of SRT, but we managed to get out of it. We have learning experience as part of that.
We said, okay, then let's talk to the communities. Let's ask the communities from each Rhino custodian conservancy, can they employ 2 guys? We call them Rhino Rangers. They will focus on rhinos in the area, and they will work with us, with the police, with MET, everybody.
Ik heb een goede samenwerking in die area waar ik met die gemeenschap werk. Train ook die gemeenschap Rhino Rangers.
It was hard patrols to be on the back of a donkey for the whole day. When poaching started in 2012, I decided to change our vehicle-based patrols to foot patrols for them to cover a big area and to do better detections on illegal activities in the area.
This decision increased the rhino monitoring footprint dramatically and had substantially helped to decrease rhino poaching.
SRT proved to Namibia what can be done if you work together with communities and not use a militaristic approach to anti-poaching. If you get the trust of the communities on your side, you can fight poaching, and that is exactly what they did.
It took years to be able to build that trust, and eventually that trust is there now.
As the Conservancy Rhino Ranger program began to gain momentum and produce tangible results, it was also clear that efforts would need to reach the broader community beyond the rangers to secure a future for rhinos. As part of the strategy to engage youth and build a sense of pride in wildlife, and rhino in particular, SRT and partners launched the Rhino Pride campaign.
Poverty creates poaching. And if we don't narrow the gap, and especially with our younger people, because the older people understand. A lot of our youth are into sports. A lot of our youth are into music. So you look at what is automatically attracting the youth, and this is where we then try to use those forums as an opportunity to get our message across.
Over the past 5 years, the Rhino Pride campaign has delivered a number of different outreach activities designed to bolster pride, gratitude, and compassion for rhinos. Activities are tailored to different groups, including rhino-friend youth clubs, rhino-branded sports leagues, rhino music and videos for youth, exposure trips into rhino areas for traditional authorities and conservancy leadership, patrol teams visiting farmers on a regular basis to build relationships, and most recently, a rhino-themed reading program in local schools. As the national population of black rhinos grows, the government is actively seeking new custodians and rangeland for these animals. In 2022, just short of 40 years in existence, SRT and its unique tried and tested model for community-led rhino conservation is expanding.
Since 2017, we've only actually lost 4 rhinos to poaching in that area. And that is because of the relationship that SRT has with the communities and the conservancies, and the Rhino Ranger program that they initiated for the conservancies. So Kunene is known as the world's only free-ranging black rhino population, but that Naina area is 3 million hectares of unspoiled land with communities living there. So it is a potential to introduce rhino there as well as a free-ranging population.
In a first-of-its-kind decision, the ministry invited Save the Rhino Trust to transfer or replicate their successful Conservancy Rhino Ranger model from Kunene all the way across the country into the northeast by partnering with Nainai Conservancy and getting their new generation of Rhino Rangers up and running.
We already had a team that's well trained with a vehicle waiting for them to look after them in the area where they are. And that's the whole idea of Nainai Conservancy, becoming a rhino custodian.
Also on SRT's more recent agenda is exploring how new technology can help make us more effective. We are one of the first organizations in Namibia to adopt the use of smart conservation software for data management. Another problem we believe could be addressed with technology is the challenge of providing clean drinking water to ranger teams who spend 3 weeks a month out in the desert.
We're really excited to receive our first shipment of the hydro panels. These are devices which remove moisture from the air and turn it into drinking water for our rangers, which adds to the ranger welfare aspect of our program. And it's also going to cut down on costs of SRT having to resupply these remote camps with fresh water.
International projects seeking to work with local rangers to conserve and protect wildlife have started to approach us.
There's a lot of fundamental principles with our community-based work that is fully transferable to other situations, other species, other countries. We've already seen that here in Namibia with the Lion Ranger program that's adopted a lot of our lessons, as well as even across the world in Nepal, where I've been invited to assist some Nepalese colleagues on setting up a community-based snow leopard conservation program.
A very small, it's not a big organization. It's not a lot of people that work within this organization. But the fact that we are making impact at a global level makes me proud to be associated with an institution such as that.
SRT has come a long way in 4 decades with a rich history and significant impact in Namibian conservation and becoming a world leader in rhino conservation. What does the future hold for us? How will this incredible organization tackle the next 40 years?
We're very excited to be able to launch the new strategic plan for the following 5 years in 2023. There's a couple of changes that we would like to see happen in the work that SRT does and the way that SRT operates. Primarily advocating for more community involvement and more community responsibility, particularly over the Rhino Ranger program. That's one of the main thrusts of the strategic plan moving forward.
I've been grown up in SRT. By working with SRT, working in this area, it's like I'm protecting my own resources, also for future generations, and I think it's better to take care of things yourself.
If you get the community on your side, they see rhinos as a valuable asset, and they will not tolerate poachers in the area because those poachers are stealing the asset from them.
Kwending using hamasi bipene si mer as sidang wagune SRT sang wagu kaise sidaka peter sirangangu.
The people has become the eyes and the ears of the Save the Rhino Trust and of the government per se.
When I joined Save the Rhino Trust, it gave me an opportunity to see how all of us fit into the conservation of rhinos, because this is like a 3-legged pot. It's the Save the Rhino Trust, it's the community, and it's the government. And without one of the legs, I mean, we wouldn't be successful.
My families understand that nature brings them something important. I mean, they love the rhinos.
Even the communities now know who to trust and who not to trust. So trust is very important, and it takes time to build trust up between people and with people.
40 years later, thanks to SRT, the rhinos of Kunene are still roaming and growing in numbers. Our community-centered approach has not changed in 40 years, holding true to the values of our founding members.